The look on my father's face when he called me uneducated trash and ordered me out of his house was worth every tear I shed. Because 3 weeks later, he discovered I was the anonymous benefactor who had been secretly funding our family survival for years. Part 1: The Foundation of Doubt. The scent of freshly cut grass and summer heat hung heavy in the air as 10-year-old Amanda Wilson carefully arranged her lemonade stand on the corner of Maple Street in Columbus, Ohio. Unlike the cardboard table and pitcher setup her neighbors expected, Amanda had constructed something entirely different. 3 flavors of lemonade sat in matching dispensers: classic, strawberry, and mint, each with a handwritten sign detailing the ingredients and health benefits. A small notebook tracked customer preferences, and she had even created punch cards offering every 10th cup free. "Look at our little entrepreneur," her father William would say to visitors, his tone carrying that particular blend of amusement and dismissal that Amanda was already learning to recognize. At 38, William Wilson had spent 15 years climbing the ladder at Harrison & Associates, a mid-sized accounting firm where predictability and tradition were valued above innovation. His wife, Patricia, 2 years younger and equally committed to conventional paths, taught 3rd grade at the local elementary school with the same methodical approach she brought to raising their 3 children. The Wilson household operated on clearly defined expectations. Academic achievement came first, followed by extracurricular activities that would enhance college applications. Thomas, the eldest at 12, excelled in mathematics and played varsity soccer. Jennifer, 8, showed promise in piano and maintained perfect attendance records. Then there was Amanda, whose report cards consistently featured comments like "bright but easily distracted" and "shows more interest in business projects than assigned work." While her siblings completed homework at the kitchen table under their mother's watchful supervision, Amanda could be found in her bedroom, sketching business plans for ventures that existed only in her imagination. A pet-sitting service for busy neighbors, a tutoring program where older students helped younger ones for a small fee, a greeting card company featuring her own artwork and poetry. Each idea was carefully researched through library books about entrepreneurship, books she had to request specifically since the children's section focused primarily on traditional career paths. The dismissal wasn't intentionally cruel, but it was consistent. During family dinners, Thomas would share news about his academic achievements, while Jennifer discussed her latest piano recital. When Amanda mentioned earning $47 from her weekend computer repair service, fixing virus-infected machines for neighbors, while the local shop charged $75 per hour, the conversation would quickly shift to more appropriate topics. "Amanda needs to focus on her studies instead of these little business projects," William would say, cutting into his meatloaf with practiced precision. "These games won't pay the bills when she grows up. Education is the foundation of everything." Patricia would nod in agreement, adding, "There's plenty of time for hobbies after she establishes a proper career foundation. Right now, she should be concentrating on getting into a good college." But Amanda's mind worked differently than her family understood. Where they saw childhood hobbies, she saw market opportunities. Where they valued conformity, she thrived on innovation. At 13, she had identified a significant gap in her community's technology services. The local computer repair shop was overwhelmed, expensive, and slow. Amanda had taught herself basic troubleshooting through online tutorials and library books, discovering she had an intuitive understanding of how systems worked and failed. Her computer repair venture began accidentally when Mrs. Henderson, their elderly neighbor, mentioned her grandson's gaming computer had caught a virus and wouldn't start. The repair shop had quoted $200 and a 2-week wait. Amanda offered to take a look for free, spending 3 hours that Saturday afternoon removing malware and optimizing the system. When Mrs. Henderson insisted on paying her $20, Amanda realized she had discovered something significant. Word spread through the neighborhood network of parents and retirees who struggled with technology but couldn't afford professional rates. Amanda's bedroom became an unofficial repair center, with towers and laptops lining her desk awaiting diagnosis. She developed a systematic approach: run diagnostics, explain the problem in simple terms, fix the issue, and provide prevention tips. Her rate was $20 per hour, less than half the professional rate, but substantial income for a middle schooler. The psychological impact of this early dismissal would shape Amanda's relationship with success for decades. Dr. Sarah Chen's research on family dynamics and entrepreneurial development shows that children who display early business acumen often face resistance from parents who prioritize security over innovation. The family system naturally seeks homeostasis, Dr. Chen explains. When one member demonstrates capabilities that challenge existing hierarchies or values, other family members may unconsciously work to restore the previous balance. This dynamic was evident in the Wilson household. Amanda's success created uncomfortable questions about conventional paths. If a 13-year-old could earn $20 per hour without formal training, what did that say about the value of traditional education? Rather than celebrating her initiative, the family treated it as a phase to be managed and eventually outgrown. High school intensified these tensions. While Thomas and Jennifer thrived in the structured academic environment, excelling in courses designed to prepare them for traditional 4-year universities, Amanda felt increasingly constrained. She maintained a solid B average, but devoted her intellectual energy to projects outside the curriculum. Her online phone case business, launched during sophomore year, generated nearly $2,000 before graduation. Money she quietly saved while her family remained focused on her mediocre grades. The phone case venture revealed Amanda's natural understanding of market psychology. Instead of competing on price with mass-produced alternatives, she focused on customization and personal connection. Each case was designed specifically for the customer, incorporating their favorite colors, quotes, or images. She built relationships with suppliers, managed inventory from her bedroom closet, and handled customer service through social media platforms her parents barely understood. "You're spending too much time on that computer," Patricia would say, finding Amanda photographing new designs at midnight. "Your grades are suffering, and you're missing out on normal teenage experiences. When I was your age, we spent time with friends, not running pretend businesses." The word pretend stung particularly because Amanda knew her business was real. She had paying customers, positive reviews, and profit margins that would impress actual business owners. But in her family's framework, Anything that didn't lead directly to college admission was categorized as play rather than achievement. The breaking point came during Amanda's senior year when she approached her parents about her post-graduation plans. She had been accepted to Columbus State Community College, but felt increasingly certain that traditional education wasn't the right path. Her business ideas were evolving, becoming more sophisticated and profitable. She wanted to dedicate herself fully to entrepreneurship, rather than spending money and time on courses that felt irrelevant to her goals. "You want to throw your life away?" William's voice had risen to a shout during that heated kitchen table discussion, his face flushed with anger and disappointment. "No child of mine will be a college dropout working minimum wage jobs forever. Do you understand what you're risking? Your entire future depends on getting an education." Amanda tried to explain her business success, the money she had already earned, the skills she had developed independently. But her achievements were dismissed as lucky breaks rather than evidence of capability. The underlying message was clear. Her judgment couldn't be trusted, her successes were temporary, and her dreams were unrealistic. "Look at me," William continued, his voice strained with emotion. "I worked my way up from an entry-level position to senior accountant because I got my degree and put in my time. That's how the real world works. These internet businesses come and go overnight. You need credentials, Amanda. You need something solid to fall back on." Patricia's approach was gentler, but equally dismissive. "Sweetheart, we're not trying to crush your spirit. We just want you to be practical. You can always pursue these interests as hobbies once you have a stable career foundation. Plenty of people run side businesses while working regular jobs." The subtext was unmistakable. Amanda's entrepreneurial dreams were acceptable as secondary pursuits, but never as primary life paths. The family's love was conditional on her conforming to their definition of success, and that definition had no room for unconventional achievement. Research by Dr. Michael Torres on family entrepreneurs reveals that this dynamic is surprisingly common. Parents who have succeeded through traditional paths often struggle to recognize alternative forms of achievement, his studies show. They project their own fears about security and stability onto children who demonstrate entrepreneurial tendencies, inadvertently creating shame around natural abilities. This shame would follow Amanda for years, causing her to minimize her successes and constantly seek validation from the family members who had initially dismissed her potential. Even as her business grew into a multi-million-dollar enterprise, part of her remained that 10-year-old girl arranging lemonade dispensers on Maple Street, hoping someone would finally notice that her different approach wasn't a problem to be solved, but a strength to be celebrated. The foundation of doubt had been laid, creating patterns that would take decades to unravel. But it also fostered resilience, independence, and an unwavering belief that success could be achieved through dedication and innovation, even when the people who should have believed in her most never quite learned to see her potential. Part 2. The Wilderness Years. The studio apartment on East Broad Street smelled of mildew and desperation. At 19, Amanda Wilson stood in the doorway of what would be her home for the next 3 years, holding everything she owned in 2 suitcases and a cardboard box. The space was barely 400 square feet, with water stains on the ceiling and a radiator that clanged through the night like a mechanical ghost. The previous tenant had left behind a mattress of questionable origin and a folding table that wobbled when touched. This was freedom, and it terrified her. The neighborhood existed in that gray zone between gentrification and decay, where young professionals on tight budgets lived alongside families who had been there for generations. Sirens were a nightly soundtrack, and Amanda quickly learned never to do laundry after sunset, not because of safety concerns, but because the laundromat's fluorescent lighting made her feel exposed and vulnerable in ways she couldn't articulate. Her parents had maintained a cold silence since her decision to leave school. The final argument still echoed in her memory. Her father's face red with anger, her mother's disappointed sighs, the ultimatum that she was making the biggest mistake of her life. They had offered no financial support, no safety net, no acknowledgement that perhaps their daughter might know something about her own capabilities that they couldn't see. "You'll be back within 6 months," had been William's parting words. When reality hits and you're working fast food jobs just to pay rent, you'll understand why education matters. But Amanda was determined to prove him wrong, even if it killed her. And some days, it nearly did. Her first business venture seemed promising on paper. Drop shipping had exploded as an e-commerce model, allowing entrepreneurs to sell products without maintaining inventory. Amanda spent 2 weeks researching suppliers, primarily manufacturers in Southeast Asia who promised quality products at wholesale prices. She built a website for textile accessories, focusing on phone cases, laptop sleeves, and tablet stands, products she understood from her high school business experience. The psychological appeal of dropshipping lay in its apparent simplicity. Customers order products, you forward orders to suppliers. Suppliers ship directly to customers. Everyone profits. No inventory costs, no storage space required, minimal upfront investment. For someone with $2,000 in savings and a desperate need to prove herself, it felt like the perfect solution. Reality proved far more complex. Her first month brought 47 orders, generating $200 in revenue that should have yielded $300 in profit. Instead, Amanda found herself fielding angry customer calls about defective products, delayed shipments, and items that bore no resemblance to their website photos. The premium leather phone cases arrived as plastic with a leather-textured coating. Laptop sleeves came in wrong sizes. Several packages never arrived at all. Customer service became a nightmare of refunds, replacement orders, and increasingly hostile reviews on her website and social media pages. Amanda spent 18 hours a day managing the crisis, using her personal funds to expedite replacement shipments and offer compensation to disappointed customers. Within 3 months, she had lost her initial investment and accumulated $800 in additional debt. The failure stung beyond the financial loss. Amanda had approached the business with genuine enthusiasm, researching market trends and customer needs with the same thoroughness she had applied to her high school ventures. She had created detailed product descriptions, invested in professional website design, and even developed a customer service protocol. But she had underestimated the complexities of international supply chains and overestimated her ability to control quality from thousands of miles away. Dr. Rebecca Martinez's research on entrepreneurial learning reveals that first-time business failures often provide more valuable education than traditional business courses. Failure teaches pattern recognition in ways that textbooks cannot, she explains. Entrepreneurs learn to identify warning signs, understand market dynamics, and develop resilience through direct experience with consequences. Amanda's second venture emerged from desperation rather than passion. Social media management was exploding as small businesses recognized the importance of online presence, but lacked internal expertise. Amanda had managed her own business social media accounts with moderate success and noticed how many local establishments had dormant Facebook pages and non-existent Instagram presence. She created Columbus Social Solutions and began cold calling restaurants, retail stores, and service businesses. Her pitch was compelling: professional social media management for $200 per month, including content creation, posting schedules, and customer engagement. Several businesses signed contracts immediately, attracted by her low rates and enthusiastic presentation. The problem was scale. Amanda had underpriced her services by roughly 70% compared to established agencies. What she thought would be a few hours of work per client each week actually required 15 to 20 hours of content creation, scheduling, community management, and strategy development. With 8 clients, she was working 120 hours per week for roughly $1,600 in monthly revenue, $333 per hour before business expenses. The psychological toll was devastating. Amanda found herself awake at 3 a.m., creating Instagram posts for a local pizza restaurant, knowing she needed to be up at 6 a.m. to respond to customer comments before the business day began. She ate one meal a day, usually ramen noodles or discount bread with peanut butter, and developed chronic headaches from staring at screens in her dimly lit apartment. The breaking point came when 3 clients fired her in the same week. Despite her exhausting work schedule, she simply couldn't deliver the level of service their expectations required. Her content felt rushed, her engagement strategies lacked sophistication, and her burned-out state began showing in increasingly poor quality work. Within 6 months, Columbus Social Solutions was defunct, leaving Amanda with another failure and deeper financial distress. Her third attempt at entrepreneurship came from a place of genuine creativity. Amanda had always enjoyed making jewelry as a stress relief activity, creating simple pieces from beads, wire, and semi-precious stones. Friends occasionally complimented her work, suggesting she could sell her creations. With her previous business models collapsed and bills mounting, handmade jewelry seemed like a natural pivot. She invested her remaining savings in materials and display equipment, creating Artisan Wireworks as her brand. The jewelry was genuinely beautiful. Delicate earrings that caught light beautifully, bracelets with intricate wire wrapping patterns, necklaces that combined stones in unexpected but harmonious ways. Her pieces had a distinctive style that set them apart from mass-produced accessories. Local craft fairs and farmers markets became her primary sales venues. Amanda spent weekends sitting behind a folding table, watching people admire her work and occasionally making purchases. The profit margins were reasonable. Materials cost roughly 30% of retail price, and customers genuinely appreciated the craftsmanship. Several regular buyers began requesting custom pieces for special occasions. But jewelry making couldn't scale beyond personal production limits. Amanda could create perhaps 50 pieces per month, working every evening after her part-time retail job at a local bookstore, even selling every piece at premium prices. Monthly revenue capped at around $800, not enough to cover rent, food, and materials for future inventory. She was trapped in a cycle where success required more time than existed, and scaling required capital she didn't have. Each failure taught specific lessons that would prove invaluable later. Dropshipping revealed the importance of supply chain control and quality assurance. Social media management demonstrated the critical relationship between pricing and service delivery. Jewelry making showed the limitations of purely manual production models. These weren't academic lessons learned from textbooks, but painful, expensive education acquired through personal consequence. The psychological impact extended beyond business knowledge. Amanda was developing resilience, learning to compartmentalize failure without internalizing it as personal inadequacy. She began understanding that business failure was often about model selection and execution rather than personal worth or capability. Each setback became data rather than devastation. During her lowest moment, eating cold ramen for the fourth consecutive day while calculating whether she could afford both rent and electricity, Amanda received an invitation that would change everything. A local business networking group was hosting a monthly mixer at a downtown coffee shop. The $5 entry fee felt extravagant, but desperation overrode financial caution. The networking event was intimidating. Established business owners in professional attire discussing contracts, investments, and growth strategies, while Amanda stood in the corner wearing her only dress shirt, now showing wear from 2 years of constant use. She felt like an imposter, a failed entrepreneur, surrounded by people who had figured out what she couldn't. Then she met Sophia Reynolds. Sophia was 52 years old, with silver hair pulled back in an elegant bun and laugh lines that suggested someone who had found genuine joy in her professional life. She had built and sold 3 companies over 20 years, currently serving as a consultant for emerging businesses. When she approached Amanda at the coffee station, her opening question was disarming in its directness. "You look like someone with interesting stories," Sophia said, stirring honey into her tea. "Tell me about your biggest business failure." Most networking conversations began with successes and accomplishments. Sophia's invitation to discuss failure was so unexpected that Amanda found herself sharing honestly about her dropshipping disaster, her social media burnout, and her current jewelry-making limitations. She expected judgment or dismissal, but Sophia listened intently, occasionally asking clarifying questions that revealed deep understanding of entrepreneurial challenges. "Education comes in many forms," Sophia said, when Amanda finished her recounting. "Some of the most successful people I know learned by doing, not by sitting in classrooms. Your failures tell me more about your potential than any degree could." This conversation marked Amanda's transition from wilderness wandering to purposeful direction. Sophia became the mentor Amanda had desperately needed, someone who recognized potential rather than focusing on credentials, who understood that failure was education rather than character deficiency. Their weekly coffee meetings became Amanda's lifeline. Sophia shared practical business wisdom accumulated through decades of experience. How to validate market demand before building products. The importance of understanding customer acquisition costs. Strategies for pricing services profitably. More importantly, she helped Amanda recognize patterns in her failures and strengths in her approaches that could be leveraged for future success. You have excellent instincts for identifying market needs, Sophia observed after hearing about Amanda's various ventures. Your problem hasn't been idea selection, it's been business model execution. We need to find something that matches your natural abilities with sustainable economics. The wilderness years were ending. Amanda had survived the brutal education of entrepreneurial failure, emerging with practical knowledge, emotional resilience, and finally, a mentor who believed in her potential. The foundation was set for what would become her greatest success, built on the expensive but invaluable lessons learned during 3 years of struggle, failure, and gradual self-discovery in that mildew-scented studio apartment on East Broad Street. Part 3. Building the Empire. The idea that would transform Amanda's life came during a conversation with Marcus, a woodworker at the local farmer's market where she sold jewelry. He was crafting beautiful cutting boards from reclaimed Ohio barnwood, each piece unique and obviously superior to mass-produced alternatives. Yet he struggled to reach customers beyond the Saturday market crowd, selling perhaps 20 pieces monthly when he could easily produce 200. I've got a website, Marcus explained, frustration evident in his weathered hands as he arranged his display. But nobody finds it. These corporate retailers want to buy my designs cheap and have them made overseas. That defeats the whole point of what I'm doing. Amanda saw the pattern immediately. Marcus represented hundreds, perhaps thousands, of American artisans and small manufacturers caught between limited local markets and large-scale retailers who would compromise their values for volume. There was a gap in the marketplace. Customers who wanted authentic, American-made products, but couldn't easily find and connect with the people creating them. That evening, Amanda filled 3 notebooks with research and planning. The e-commerce landscape was dominated by platforms optimized for mass-produced goods shipped from overseas. What if someone created a curated marketplace specifically for American-made products? Not just a website, but a complete ecosystem, connecting makers with customers who valued craftsmanship, sustainability, and supporting domestic manufacturing. Sophia's reaction was immediate and enthusiastic when Amanda presented the concept during their weekly coffee meeting. This addresses real market needs on both sides, she said, sketching potential revenue models on a napkin. Makers need marketing and distribution. Customers need curation and trust. You could take a reasonable commission while providing genuine value to everyone involved. The business model seemed elegant in its simplicity. Artisans and small manufacturers would apply to join the platform, with Amanda curating selections based on quality, authenticity, and story. The website would feature detailed maker profiles, product photography that emphasized craftsmanship, and storytelling that connected customers with the people behind the products. Revenue would come from commission fees, initially 15%, competitive with other platforms, but sustainable for the services provided. Amanda spent 3 months building the foundation before launching publicly. She converted half her tiny apartment into a makeshift office, her futon serving double duty as both bed and conference room for video calls with potential partners. Her desktop computer, purchased used from a local electronics store, ran constantly as she coded the website, processed applications, and developed operational systems. The name Heartland Made emerged from extensive brainstorming and research into American manufacturing heritage. It conveyed both geographic identity and emotional connection, suggesting products created with care by people who took pride in their work. The logo, a simple outline of the continental United States filled with interwoven patterns representing different crafts, could be scaled from business cards to billboards while maintaining clarity and impact. Finding the first group of artisan partners required extensive outreach. Amanda visited every craft fair, farmers market, and small business expo within a 100-mile radius of Columbus. She developed a presentation explaining the platform's benefits, complete with projected traffic numbers and marketing strategies that most individual makers couldn't implement independently. The initial response was cautiously positive. 27 makers from Ohio, Kentucky, and West Virginia agreed to join the platform, representing diverse products from hand-forged knives to organic soaps to reclaimed wood furniture. Each partnership required individual negotiations about pricing, shipping logistics, and quality standards. Amanda was simultaneously website developer, marketing director, customer service manager, and business development representative. Launch day arrived with a little fanfare, beyond Amanda's nervous excitement, and Sophia's encouraging text messages. The website went live at 6 a.m. on a Tuesday in March, featuring 127 products from 27 makers, with detailed photography Amanda had taken during weekend visits to each partner's workshop or studio. Traffic for the first week totaled 342 visitors, generating exactly 0 sales. Amanda spent sleepless nights analyzing web analytics, tweaking product descriptions, and adjusting the user experience based on visitor behavior patterns. The traffic was there. People were finding the site and browsing products. But something prevented conversion from browsers to buyers. Price comparison revealed that handmade items naturally cost more than mass-produced alternatives, but the value proposition wasn't communicating effectively. The breakthrough insight came from customer interviews. Amanda reached out to visitors who had browsed extensively without purchasing, offering brief phone calls to understand their decision-making process. The feedback was consistent. People loved the products and appreciated the stories, but felt disconnected from the makers, despite the detailed profiles on the website. "I want to support American craftspeople," one potential customer explained, "but buying online feels impersonal. When I shop at farmers markets, I can talk to the person who made what I'm buying. Your website is beautiful, but it still feels like just another online store." Amanda realized she needed to humanize the digital experience in ways that went beyond static profiles and product photos. She began creating video content, short documentaries featuring makers in their workshops, explaining their processes and sharing their stories. Marcus the woodworker became her first video subject, the camera following him from selecting reclaimed barnwood through the careful crafting process to the finished cutting board. The video content transformed user engagement immediately. Time spent on site increased by 400%, and conversion rates jumped from 0 to nearly 3% within 2 weeks of adding the first maker videos. Customers began leaving comments, expressing personal connections to the makers and their stories. Order volumes climbed from 0 to 5 daily, then 15, then 30. But success brought new challenges Amanda hadn't anticipated. Order fulfillment became a logistical nightmare as makers struggled with packaging, shipping timelines, and customer communication. Some artisans excelled at creating beautiful products, but had never dealt with online sales, tracking numbers, or customer service expectations. Amanda found herself mediating between frustrated customers and overwhelmed makers, while trying to maintain quality standards across dozens of different shipping processes. The server crash came during the worst possible moment. Amanda had secured a feature on Martha Stewart Living's website, highlighting 3 Heartland-made artisans in a holiday gift guide. Traffic spiked from 500 daily visitors to 15,000 in the first hour as Martha Stewart's audience discovered the platform. The website infrastructure, built for modest traffic levels, collapsed completely under the sudden load. For 72 hours, Amanda existed on coffee, adrenaline, and pure determination. She worked with a freelance developer to migrate the website to more robust hosting, while personally responding to hundreds of frustrated customer emails. Sleep came in 20-minute intervals between crisis management tasks. Her apartment became a war room of laptops, notebooks, and empty coffee cups as she coordinated the emergency response. When the website finally stabilized, order volume had exploded beyond anything Amanda had imagined possible. The Martha Stewart feature brought $47,000 in orders over 5 days, more revenue than the platform had generated in its previous 6 months combined. But fulfilling those orders required completely rebuilding the operational infrastructure in real time. Amanda hired her first employees, 2 part-time customer service representatives and a logistics coordinator, working from her apartment until she could afford proper office space. She developed standardized packaging materials and shipping procedures, created inventory management systems, and implemented quality control processes to ensure consistent customer experiences across all maker partners. The cash flow crisis nearly destroyed everything Amanda had built. Rapid growth created a dangerous gap between orders received and payments collected. Heartland Made operated on net 30 payment terms with makers. Customers paid immediately, but artisans received payment 30 days after shipping. This seemed manageable with modest order volumes, but became catastrophic as sales exploded. With $200,000 in outstanding payments to makers and only $15,000 in available cash, Amanda faced impossible choices. She could delay payments to artisans, risking their trust and potentially losing key partners. She could refuse new orders, sacrificing momentum and disappointing customers. Or she could find alternative funding sources to bridge the cash flow gap. Traditional bank loans required collateral and credit history Amanda didn't possess. Her parents remained estranged, and she felt too proud to seek help from the family who had dismissed her dreams. Sophia offered personal loans, but Amanda worried about mixing mentorship with financial obligation. The solution came from an unexpected source. Several of her most successful maker partners offered to accept extended payment terms in exchange for higher commission rates. "You took a chance on us when we were just weekend craft fair vendors," Marcus told her during a conference call with 5 other top-performing artisans. "Now we're making real money because of this platform. We can wait an extra 30 days for payment if it helps you keep growing. This crisis taught Amanda crucial lessons about financial management that would serve her throughout Heartland Made's expansion. She implemented daily cash flow monitoring, established lines of credit before needing them, and created conservative growth policies that prioritized sustainability over rapid scaling. The experience was terrifying, but ultimately strengthening, like surviving a storm that made her a more skilled navigator. By the end of year 2, Heartland Made represented over 400 makers across all 50 states, generating $1.2 million in annual revenue. Amanda had moved into a real office, a converted warehouse space in downtown Columbus, with exposed brick walls and natural lighting perfect for photographing products. The team had grown to 12 employees, including dedicated photographers, content creators, and customer service specialists. The personal cost of this success was significant. Amanda worked 16-hour days routinely, managing every aspect of the business while maintaining relationships with hundreds of individual makers. Her social life existed entirely within work contexts. Her apartment, when she managed to spend time there, felt more like a hotel room than a home. She was building an empire, but living like a monk. The validation came not just from financial metrics, but from the impact on maker partners. Small manufacturers who had been struggling to survive found new markets and stable income through the platform. Traditional craftspeople discovered audiences far beyond their geographic limitations. Amanda received letters from makers who had hired employees, expanded workshops, and achieved financial security through Heartland Made sales. "You saved my business," wrote Sarah, a textile artist from Montana, whose hand-woven scarves had become bestsellers on the platform. "I was 2 months from closing my studio and finding a regular job. Now I have a 6-month waiting list, and I'm training 2 apprentices. This isn't just commerce. It's preserving American craft traditions." These messages sustained Amanda through the exhaustion, stress, and isolation of building a rapidly growing business. She wasn't just creating a successful company. She was enabling dreams and preserving craftsmanship that might otherwise disappear in an increasingly automated economy. As year 3 began, Amanda stood in her downtown office at dawn, watching sunrise light filter through the warehouse windows. The space hummed with quiet activity as early shift employees prepared for another day of connecting makers with customers across America. Revenue projections suggested they would cross $5 million in annual sales within 12 months. Investor inquiries arrived weekly, offering capital for expansion in exchange for equity stakes. The empire was built. Now came the challenge of sustaining and scaling it, while maintaining the authentic connections that made Heartland Made special. Amanda had proven her family wrong about her potential, but she had not yet proven herself right about what success could ultimately mean. Part 4. The Secret Benefactor. Success, Amanda discovered, could be as isolating as failure. By her 4th year running Heartland Made, she commanded a team of 38 employees, managed relationships with over 400 artisan partners, and oversaw a business generating $8 million in annual revenue. The converted warehouse in downtown Columbus had expanded to occupy an entire floor, with dedicated studios for photography, a customer service center that never seemed quiet, and Amanda's corner office overlooking the Scioto River. Yet the personal relationships that should have provided meaning to this achievement remained fractured and conditional. The irony wasn't lost on her. During business hours, Amanda made decisions that affected hundreds of lives positively. Maker partners regularly shared stories of expanded workshops, hired employees, and financial stability achieved through platform sales. Her team members spoke enthusiastically about company culture, competitive salaries, and meaningful work that preserved American craftsmanship. Industry publications featured Heartland Made as a model for ethical e-commerce, and business schools requested case studies on her innovative approach to artisan marketplaces. But when Amanda's phone rang with family calls, increasingly rare occurrences, the conversations felt scripted and superficial. Her parents knew she ran some kind of website business that seemed to be doing well, but had never asked for details about revenue, growth, or impact. Her siblings treated her work as a curiosity, something interesting but not quite legitimate compared to their traditional career paths in accounting and law. The psychological complexity of maintaining these parallel realities was exhausting. Amanda found herself downplaying achievements that should have been celebrated, minimizing success that had required enormous sacrifice and skill to achieve. When family gatherings occasionally occurred, she would describe Heartland Made as a small business with modest success, carefully avoiding numbers or details that might upset the established family hierarchy. Dr. Jennifer Walsh's research on family dynamics and entrepreneurial success reveals this pattern frequently among business owners whose achievements challenge family expectations. The entrepreneur often becomes complicit in maintaining family myths about their success, Dr. Walsh explains. They minimize their achievements to preserve relationships, not realizing that this dynamic prevents authentic connection and perpetuates underlying resentment. This pattern became most evident when family crises arose. Amanda's first opportunity to provide significant financial help came during her mother's breast cancer diagnosis in year 4 of Heartland Made's operation. Patricia Wilson had always maintained excellent health, making the aggressive tumor discovery during a routine mammogram particularly shocking. The recommended treatment protocol was extensive: surgery, chemotherapy, radiation, and ongoing monitoring that would stretch over 18 months. Williams' insurance coverage, adequate for routine medical expenses, proved woefully insufficient for cancer treatment. After initial surgery and the first round of chemotherapy, the family faced $75,000 in uncovered expenses. Specialist consultations, experimental treatments not deemed necessary by insurance reviewers, and the premium care Patricia deserved but couldn't afford. Amanda watched her parents age visibly under the stress of medical bills and insurance negotiations. Her father, normally confident and controlled, seemed diminished as he spread payment plans and loan applications across their kitchen table. Her mother, weakened by treatment but still concerned about burdens she was placing on the family, suggested foregoing some recommended therapies to reduce costs. The solution was obvious to Amanda, but implementation required careful strategy. Direct financial assistance would be refused or create uncomfortable obligation dynamics. Instead, she researched medical billing procedures and discovered that hospitals often received anonymous payments from charitable foundations, insurance settlements, or beneficiary accounts that patients never learned about directly. Working through her attorney, Amanda established a medical expense account that appeared to originate from a Cancer Research Foundation grant. The $75,000 payment covered all outstanding bills and future treatment costs, arriving with documentation suggesting Patricia had been selected for assistance based on her medical profile and financial need. The family accepted the grant gratefully, never suspecting its actual source. Amanda watched her mother's relief during their next family dinner, color returning to Patricia's face as she discussed treatment options without constant worry about cost. William seemed years younger, his confidence restored as provider and protector. The gratitude in their voices, as they discussed the mysterious foundation grant, was worth every cent Amanda had spent. Yet she couldn't share in their joy openly, because doing so would reveal her deception. This pattern repeated with increasing frequency as Amanda's wealth grew alongside family needs. Her brother Thomas had always dreamed of home ownership, but struggled to accumulate sufficient down payment savings on his accountant's salary. When he found the perfect house, a 4-bedroom colonial in the suburb where he planned to raise his children, his conventional mortgage application fell $40,000 short of requirements. Amanda created an elaborate fiction involving a distant uncle's estate and family loans to provide the missing funds. She researched genealogy to identify a plausible relative, worked with her attorney to create appropriate documentation, and transferred money through accounts that obscured its origins. Thomas accepted the family loan readily, though he continued making comments about Amanda needing to find a real job with benefits whenever they discussed her career. The psychological toll of this secret generosity was complex and unexpected. Amanda felt genuine joy from solving family problems and providing security for people she loved. Watching Thomas move into his dream home, seeing his children play in their new backyard, knowing she had made these moments possible, created satisfaction deeper than any business achievement. Yet the secrecy also created profound loneliness. Amanda couldn't share her pride in these generous acts or receive acknowledgement for sacrifices they represented. She was simultaneously the family's guardian angel and its black sheep, providing salvation while remaining categorized as the member who had chosen poorly. The pattern reached its peak with Jennifer's wedding. Amanda's sister had planned her dream ceremony since childhood, envisioning an elegant celebration that would begin her marriage perfectly. When Jennifer's fiancé, Daniel, lost his engineering position 6 months before the wedding, their carefully saved $30,000 wedding fund became emergency living expenses while he searched for new employment. Jennifer's distress was heartbreaking to witness. She considered postponing the wedding, downsizing to a simple ceremony, or accepting her parents' offer to contribute their limited savings. None of these options felt right. Postponement might affect Daniel's job search confidence. Downsizing would disappoint extended family traveling for the celebration. And accepting parental money would strain William and Patricia's retirement planning. Amanda arranged for $50,000 to appear in Jennifer's account through what appeared to be a promotional sweepstakes sponsored by the venue's catering company. The documentation was elaborate: official letterhead, legal disclaimers, publicity releases that Jennifer never questioned because she was overwhelmed with wedding planning and grateful for unexpected fortune. The wedding was beautiful, exactly as Jennifer had envisioned. Amanda watched her sister dance with their father, surrounded by flowers and elegance that Amanda's hidden generosity had enabled. Jennifer looked radiant, confident, and completely unaware that her perfect day existed because of the family member everyone considered least successful. But even this moment of pure joy was tainted by Jennifer's casual dismissal of Amanda's contribution to family celebrations. When relatives asked about Amanda's career, Jennifer would smile indulgently and explain that Amanda had a little website business that was having a good year. The minimization stung particularly because Jennifer's perfect wedding represented more money than most people earned annually, quietly provided by the sister whose achievements were consistently diminished. Dr. Walsh's research identifies this dynamic as particularly damaging to the giving family member's psychological well-being. The secret benefactor experiences a form of emotional taxation, she explains. They provide material support, while being denied the emotional support that acknowledgement would bring. Over time, this creates deep resentment alongside genuine love, a toxic combination that eventually demands resolution. Amanda began documenting her family financial contributions, not for tax purposes, but for her own psychological processing. The spreadsheet was sobering. $75,000 for medical expenses, $40,000 for Thomas's house down payment, $50,000 for Jennifer's wedding, and dozens of smaller expenses that accumulated to nearly $200,000 over 3 years. Money given freely out of love, never expected to be repaid, but never acknowledged or appreciated by recipients who remained unaware of its source. The isolation became more pronounced as Heartland Maid's success attracted media attention. Business Insider featured Amanda in an article about innovative e-commerce entrepreneurs. Entrepreneur magazine profiled her platform as a model for supporting American manufacturing. Local television stations interviewed her about job creation and economic impact. Each article and interview highlighted achievements Amanda couldn't discuss with her family without disrupting the careful fiction she had maintained about her business being a modest success. She found herself living parallel lives, public recognition for substantial accomplishment alongside private minimization to preserve family relationships that seemed to require her diminishment. The breaking point was building, though Amanda didn't recognize it yet. The psychological strain of secret generosity, unacknowledged achievement, and conditional family acceptance was creating internal pressure that would eventually demand release. She had spent years trying to buy approval through anonymous gifts and downplayed success, not realizing that authentic relationships couldn't be purchased at any price. Her father's 65th birthday was approaching, and Amanda made a decision that would change everything. She purchased a substantial gift, a fully funded retirement investment account worth $100,000, and planned to present it alongside the truth about her business success and previous financial contributions. Surely such generous provision would finally earn the respect and acceptance she had been seeking for years. She couldn't have been more wrong about how her family would react to learning the truth. The foundation of secrets she had built was about to collapse, taking with it any possibility of the relationships she had tried so desperately to preserve through anonymous generosity and humble silence. Part 5. The Breaking Point. The Wilson family home on Maple Street looked exactly as it had throughout Amanda's childhood. Cream-colored siding with forest green shutters, the same mailbox her father had painted every 3 years like clockwork, the front garden where her mother still planted the same rotation of marigolds and petunias each spring. Walking up the familiar driveway on the evening of her father's 65th birthday, Amanda carried with her not just a carefully wrapped gift, but 7 years of accumulated success, secret generosity, and desperate hope that tonight would finally change how her family saw her. The envelope in her purse contained documentation for the retirement investment account she had funded, $100,000 that would ensure her parents' financial security for decades. More importantly, it represented her decision to finally tell the truth about Heartland Made's success, her anonymous financial contributions, and the life she had built despite their early dismissal of her dreams. Amanda had rehearsed this conversation countless times during the drive from Columbus, practicing ways to share her achievements without sounding boastful, to reveal her generosity without creating embarrassment, to finally bridge the gap between who her family thought she was and who she had actually become. She imagined her father's surprise transforming into pride, her mother's concern melting into admiration, her siblings finally understanding that success came in many forms. The evening began exactly as Amanda had expected. Thomas arrived with his wife Heather, both impeccably dressed in business casual attire that subtly communicated their professional status and middle-class stability. Thomas launched immediately into stories about his recent promotion at the accounting firm, his son's academic achievements, and his plans for expanding their home's deck this summer. Heather nodded supportively while sharing updates about her own career in pharmaceutical sales. Jennifer and Daniel arrived shortly after, Jennifer immediately dominating conversation with news of her latest promotion at the law firm, where she had followed their father's advice about pursuing stable traditional careers. "The partners are already hinting that I might make junior partner next year," she announced while helping arrange appetizers on their mother's good china. "Youngest in firm history, if it happens." Amanda waited for someone to ask about her work, her life, her recent achievements. The questions never came. When Daniel briefly mentioned seeing an article about e-commerce growth trends, Thomas quickly steered conversation toward his son's Little League batting average. When Amanda tried to interject details about a recent business award Heartland Made had received, the comment was politely acknowledged, then immediately forgotten as Jennifer launched into descriptions of her upcoming vacation to Martha's Vineyard. The family dynamics were exactly as Amanda remembered, but her perspective had shifted fundamentally. She no longer felt diminished by their casual dismissal because she understood her actual worth independently. The confidence that came from building a multi-million-dollar business, employing dozens of people, and positively impacting hundreds of artists and partners couldn't be shaken by her family's inability to see her clearly. Dinner conversation flowed through familiar territories: neighborhood gossip, childhood memories, gentle teasing about shared family experiences. William held court at the head of the table, accepting compliments about how well he looked at 65 with practiced modesty. Patricia served her traditional pot roast with all the accompaniments, the same meal she had prepared for special occasions throughout Amanda's childhood. As dessert was served and conversation lulled naturally, Amanda recognized her moment. Her heart rate increased despite her outward composure, adrenaline responding to the magnitude of what she was about to reveal. "Dad, Mom, everyone," she began, her voice steady despite internal nervousness. I wanted to share some news about my company tonight. Her father nodded absently, already reaching for another slice of birthday cake, his attention divided between her words and the dessert Patricia had made from his favorite recipe. Heartland Made was recently valued at $20 million, Amanda continued, watching her family's faces for reactions. We've received several acquisition offers, and I was featured in Business Insider and Entrepreneur magazine last month. The silence that followed felt endless. Her mother froze with her fork halfway to her mouth, cake crumbling back onto her plate. Jennifer exchanged a quick glance with Daniel, their expressions shifting from polite attention to confusion. Thomas simply stared, his confident demeanor faltering as he processed information that didn't fit his understanding of Amanda's life. Her father was the first to respond, his tone immediately dismissive, in the way Amanda recognized from childhood. What exactly does that mean, Amanda? These internet businesses use all sorts of funny math to come up with these valuations. It doesn't necessarily reflect real value. Amanda maintained her composure, explaining business valuation methodologies in simple terms. Revenue multiples, asset assessments, market comparisons. She described their office with 38 employees, partnerships with over 400 American manufacturers, and the genuine impact they were having on preserving traditional craftsmanship in an increasingly automated economy. Thomas interrupted before she could finish, his voice carrying the same condescending tone he had used when they were children, and he wanted to establish intellectual superiority. So you got lucky with this online thing. That's great, Amanda, really, but some of us have been building real careers with actual qualifications. He emphasized the word qualifications, while glancing at his wife, who nodded in agreement. The dismissal was so automatic, so reflexive, that Amanda almost laughed. Here was proof of substantial business success, independently verified by major publications and industry analysts, being reduced to luck by someone whose greatest professional achievement was a promotion at a mid-sized accounting firm. It's not luck, Amanda responded calmly, drawing on years of business negotiations where maintaining composure under pressure was essential. It's 7 years of working 18-hour days, solving complex problems, and building something meaningful. We've helped save dozens of American manufacturing businesses that were on the verge of closing. Her mother finally spoke, her voice tentative and slightly apologetic. That sounds very impressive, dear. Though I still wish you had finished your degree. Even with this business success, education is important for backup security. Amanda felt her patience beginning to wear thin, but pressed forward with her planned revelation. Actually, I brought something for Dad. She handed him the envelope containing documentation for the retirement account. I wanted to ensure you both have a comfortable retirement, so I've set up an investment account that should provide excellent income security. Her father opened the envelope, his expression darkening as he realized what he was looking at. Rather than gratitude or appreciation, his face flushed with something that looked remarkably like anger mixed with humiliation. What is this supposed to be? He dropped the papers onto the table as if they were contaminated. Some kind of charity? We didn't raise you to throw money around like you're better than everyone else. That's not my intention at all, Amanda explained, feeling the conversation spiraling beyond her control. I just wanted to help, the same way I've been helping with other family expenses. I paid for Mom's medical bills when she had cancer. I provided Thomas's house down payment. I covered Jennifer's wedding costs when Daniel lost his job. Three heads snapped up simultaneously. Her carefully guarded secret was suddenly exposed, changing the entire dynamic of the room. Jennifer looked mortified. Thomas's expression hardened into something ugly. Her mother simply looked confused and betrayed. "You," her father sputtered, his voice rising with each word. "That was all you? You've been secretly paying for things behind our backs, playing the big shot with your internet money." "I was just trying to help," Amanda replied, her voice smaller than she intended. "I never wanted recognition or acknowledgement. I just wanted to support the family." "Support?" Thomas interjected, his face red with indignation. "By making us feel like charity cases? Some of us work honest jobs with actual degrees, not getting rich quick with online schemes." "It's not a scheme," Amanda insisted, feeling the conversation deteriorating rapidly. "I built a legitimate business that helps American manufacturers reach customers nationwide. We employ dozens of people with good salaries and benefits. We've been featured in major publications, and business schools use us as case studies." Her father stood up abruptly, his napkin falling to the floor. "You drop out of college against our advice, disappear into your little internet world, and now you come back throwing money around like you have all the answers." "That's not what I'm doing," Amanda protested, fighting to keep her voice steady and reasonable. "I built something meaningful and wanted to share that success with the family I love." "You think your money makes you successful?" William continued, his voice rising further. Years of suppressed resentment and threatened authority pouring out. "You're still just uneducated trash who got lucky with computers. Anyone can get lucky on the internet." The words hit Amanda like physical blows. Uneducated trash. After everything she had accomplished, after all the lives she had positively impacted, after years of quietly supporting this very family financially, her father's assessment of her worth was uneducated trash. The room fell completely silent. Her mother gasped softly, but said nothing in Amanda's defense. Thomas looked down at his plate, unable to maintain eye contact, a slight smile playing at the corner of his mouth, as if he was enjoying watching his sister finally be put in her place. Jennifer appeared torn between embarrassment and agreement, her face flushed, but her silence speaking volumes. "William," Patricia finally whispered, too late and too quietly to matter in the toxic atmosphere that had engulfed their dining room. "No," her father continued, now fully enraged, years of feeling threatened by Amanda's unconventional path, erupting in cruel fury. "I've worked my entire life the right way. I got an education, built a respectable career, raised a family properly. I will not be shown up in my own home by my dropout daughter who thinks internet money makes her special." Amanda stood slowly, gathering her purse with as much dignity as she could muster. The carefully planned revelation had become a nightmare of rejection and cruelty. "I should go." "Yes, you should," her father spat, his voice filled with venom that revealed depths of resentment she had never suspected. "Get out of my house, you lowlife. Your money doesn't make you part of this family. We have standards here." The finality of those words, "Get out of my house," made clear that this wasn't just an argument that would blow over with time. This was rejection, complete and permanent. Amanda looked at each face around the table, searching desperately for any ally, any sign of support or defense. There was none. "Happy birthday, Dad," Amanda said quietly, her voice barely audible above the sound of her heart breaking. She walked toward the door with as much composure as she could maintain, knowing that turning around would only invite further cruelty. No one followed her out. No one called after her. No one seemed to care that they had just destroyed their daughter and sister with words that could never be taken back. Amanda sat in her car for several minutes before starting the engine, hands shaking so badly she could barely grip the steering wheel. The childhood home where she had once felt safe and loved was now a place of exile, its windows glowing warmly, while she sat alone in the darkness of rejection. The drive back to her hotel was a blur of streetlights through tears she could no longer contain. She had to pull over twice when emotion overwhelmed her ability to drive safely. The cruel irony wasn't lost on her. She owned a multi-million-dollar company, commanded respect in business circles nationwide, and employed people who depended on her leadership, yet she was spending the night alone in a hotel because her own family's house was no longer open to her. In the sterile quiet of her hotel room, Amanda replayed the evening's events obsessively, analyzing each word and reaction like a business negotiation gone wrong. Had she been too direct, too proud in sharing her success? Had she misread the family dynamic completely? The financial help she had provided over the years now felt foolish, an expensive attempt to buy approval that was never available at any price. She pulled out her laptop and began documenting every cent she had given her family over the years, not for tax purposes, but to understand the magnitude of her naive generosity. The list was substantial and sobering. $75,000 for medical expenses, $120,000 for her brother's house and subsequent renovations, $50,000 for her sister's wedding and honeymoon, countless smaller expenses that totaled nearly $300,000 over 5 years. Money freely given out of love to a family that had just called her trash and ordered her out of their house. The mathematical precision of her accounting spreadsheet contrasted sharply with the emotional chaos in her heart. But both told the same story. She had spent years trying to earn something that was never going to be freely given. Her phone lit up around midnight with a text from Jennifer. "Dad is still upset, but he'll get over it. You know how he gets when his authority is challenged. Maybe give it a few weeks." No apology for the cruelty witnessed. No acknowledgement of the horrible things said. Just an expectation that Amanda would absorb the abuse and return to the family dynamic, as if nothing fundamental had changed. The text revealed how completely her family misunderstood what had occurred. This wasn't a temporary disagreement that time would heal, but a revelation of their true feelings that made reconciliation impossible without genuine accountability. Amanda didn't respond to the text. The breaking point had been reached, and there was no going back to the suffocating dynamic where her worth was measured by their expectations rather than her actual achievements. The foundation had cracked, and everything built upon it would have to be reconstructed or abandoned entirely. Part 6. The Healing Journey. The morning after her father's birthday dinner, Amanda woke in her sterile hotel room to sunlight streaming through generic curtains and the sound of traffic on Interstate 270. For the first time in her adult life, she had nowhere she was expected to be. No family obligations pulling her back to Ohio. No relationships requiring careful management to avoid disrupting fragile dynamics. The freedom was simultaneously liberating and terrifying. She contacted Dr. Sarah Richardson, a trauma therapist in Naples, Florida, whom she had researched months earlier during a particularly stressful period at Heartland Maid. Dr. Richardson had availability for an emergency virtual session that afternoon, and Amanda found herself describing the previous night's events to a stranger who listened without judgment or attempts to minimize the psychological damage that had occurred. Family wounds cut deepest, Dr. Richardson observed after Amanda recounted the dinner conversation, especially when they target the very things we've worked hardest to overcome. Your father's words weren't just cruel. They were strategically designed to attack your most vulnerable spots. Over the following days, Dr. Richardson helped Amanda understand the complex family dynamics that had culminated in that explosive dinner. Her success had threatened the established hierarchy in ways her parents couldn't consciously acknowledge. William's identity was built around being the family provider and ultimate authority. Amanda's achievements, particularly her financial capability, challenged both roles simultaneously. Your father's reaction wasn't really about your education or business model, Dr. Richardson explained during their second session. It was about power and control. When you revealed your success and previous financial assistance, you inadvertently demonstrated that the family structure he had built his identity around was no longer accurate. Amanda began a journaling practice, documenting not just the previous night's trauma, but patterns throughout her childhood and young adulthood. The exercise revealed how deeply she had internalized messages about her inadequacy, despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary. Even as her business grew and succeeded, part of her remained that 10-year-old girl arranging lemonade dispensers on Maple Street, hoping someone would finally notice that her different approach wasn't a problem to be solved, but a strength to be celebrated. The decision to relocate permanently to Florida emerged from practical as well as emotional considerations. Amanda owned a beach house in Naples that she had purchased the previous year as an investment property, visiting only twice for brief vacations. The property stood on a quiet stretch of Gulf Coast shoreline, a modern 2-story structure with floor-to-ceiling windows facing the water, currently furnished by the real estate agent with generic luxury vacation decor. More importantly, Heartland Maid could operate successfully from anywhere with reliable internet and occasional travel to key markets. The leadership team Amanda had built over 7 years was strong enough to handle day-to-day operations with her remote oversight. Video conferences could replace most in-person meetings, and the established systems functioned smoothly regardless of her physical location. The psychological appeal of geographic distance was undeniable. In Ohio, Amanda would always be the family failure who got lucky with an internet business. In Florida, she could be exactly who she was, a successful entrepreneur who had built something meaningful while helping preserve American manufacturing traditions. Before leaving Ohio, Amanda wrote a letter to her parents. Not an angry screed listing their failures as family members, but an honest expression of hurt and disappointment coupled with clear boundaries about future contact. "Dear Mom and Dad," she began, sitting at the small desk in her Columbus apartment one final time. "I have spent years seeking your approval and respect while supporting our family financially and downplaying my success to avoid making anyone uncomfortable. Despite building a $20 million company that helps preserve American manufacturing jobs and employs dozens of people with good salaries, I have been made to feel like the family failure because I chose a different path than the one you prescribed. When Dad called me uneducated trash and a lowlife, it revealed how you truly see me. No amount of success, generosity, or achievement will ever change that perception because it's not based on my actual worth, but on your attachment to credentials and conventional measures of success. I cannot continue to participate in a relationship where my value is determined by factors beyond my control, rather than the character I've demonstrated and the positive impact I've created. I will always love you both, but I need distance to protect my own well-being and self-respect. I hope someday we can rebuild our relationship on a foundation of mutual respect, but that will require acknowledgement of the harm done and genuine change in how you view unconventional paths to success." She sealed the letter and mailed it personally, wanting to ensure it reached them without intermediaries or opportunities for family members to intercept and manage the message. Naples greeted Amanda with warm sunshine and salt-scented air that felt like a physical embrace after the emotional winter she had endured. Her beach house stood exactly as she remembered. Sleek lines and expansive windows designed to blur the boundary between interior comfort and natural beauty. The Gulf of Mexico stretched to the horizon, its changing moods providing a natural meditation focus that began healing her immediately. Transforming the house from vacation rental to authentic home became a therapeutic project. Amanda removed the generic hotel-style furniture and artwork, replacing them with pieces that reflected her genuine taste and values. Handcrafted quilts from North Carolina artisans covered the beds. Original pottery from Vermont and New Mexico partners filled the kitchen shelves. Every room gradually reflected the authentic creativity she had spent years promoting through Heartland Made. Establishing routines proved essential for emotional healing. Each morning began with a sunrise walk along the beach, her feet in cool sand as she watched dolphins arc through offshore waves. The rhythm of walking, the sound of water, and the gradual brightening of sky created a moving meditation that cleared her mind and settled her nervous system after years of chronic stress. She discovered a local coffee shop called Café Cubano, run by the Herrera family, who had immigrated from Miami 3 decades earlier. Maria Herrera, the owner's daughter, recognized Amanda after her 3rd visit and began greeting her by name, preparing her cortado with the exact amount of honey she preferred. These small gestures of recognition and care, freely given without obligation or expectation, reminded Amanda what normal human kindness felt like. Running Heartland Made remotely proved surprisingly effective. Without daily commute time and office distractions, Amanda found herself more productive and decisive. Video conferences with her leadership team revealed positive changes they had noticed immediately. "You seem more centered." Marcus, her operations director, observed during a strategic planning session conducted from Amanda's oceanfront deck. More confident in your decisions, less second-guessing yourself. He was right. Without the undercurrent of family disapproval constantly running through her subconscious, Amanda's business instincts flowed more naturally. She trusted her judgment without the shadow of her father's criticism affecting every choice. Decisions that had previously required extensive analysis and consultation now felt obvious and actionable. Community involvement became another anchor in Amanda's new life. She joined the Naples Chamber of Commerce and a local business women's networking group, organizations where her achievements were acknowledged and respected rather than minimized or dismissed. The contrast with her family dynamic was startling. Here, success was celebrated. Unconventional paths were interesting rather than concerning, and Amanda's story inspired rather than threatened. She befriended Eliza Santos, the owner of a contemporary art gallery, who had built her business through similar determination and creative vision. Eliza introduced Amanda to her circle of accomplished professional women in their 30s and 40s, entrepreneurs, artists, consultants, and executives who valued each other for present achievements rather than past credentials. Their weekly dinner gatherings became a highlight of Amanda's new life, filled with laughter and conversations that never once included questions about her educational background or suggestions that her success was temporary or undeserved. These relationships, freely chosen and maintained, taught Amanda what healthy support systems should feel like. The unexpected confrontation came 3 weeks into her Florida residence when Thomas appeared at her door unannounced on a Saturday afternoon. He looked uncomfortable and out of place in his pressed khakis and button-down shirt, clearly having dressed for what he perceived as a formal reconciliation visit. "Nice place," he said, whistling as he surveyed the ocean view from her living room. "Really nice. Must have cost a fortune." Amanda didn't invite him to sit or offer refreshments, recognizing immediately that this wasn't a genuine attempt at relationship repair. Thomas's opening gambit about her home's cost revealed his primary interest: assessing her financial situation rather than addressing the emotional damage from their father's birthday dinner. "What brings you to Florida, Thomas?" Amanda asked directly, having learned through business negotiations to address motivations rather than getting trapped in superficial conversation. "Family, of course," he replied with the confident smile he had used to charm their parents since childhood. "And actually, I could use some advice about an investment opportunity. There's a chance to get in on the ground floor of something really promising." The pattern was so predictable, it would have been funny if it weren't so disappointing. Without their parents as an audience, Thomas dropped any pretense about family reconciliation and moved directly to financial requests. Amanda's success was acceptable when it could benefit him personally, but threatening when it challenged his sense of superiority. "I'm not making loans or investments with family members anymore," Amanda said firmly. "That chapter of my life is closed." Thomas's expression hardened immediately. "So that's how it's going to be? You move to your beach mansion and forget where you came from? Dad was right about what money does to people." "Dad called me uneducated trash and ordered me out of his house," Amanda reminded him. "Is that the behavior you're here to defend?" Thomas backpedaled quickly, sensing that his approach wasn't working. "He didn't mean it like that. You know how he gets when he's surprised. Family fights happen, Amanda. You can't just run away from your responsibilities. My responsibilities? Amanda felt her temper rising for the first time since arriving in Florida. I quietly supported this family financially for years, while being treated like the member who couldn't succeed. I don't have responsibilities to people who see my generosity as weakness and my achievements as luck. After showing Thomas out, a process that required increasingly firm language as he became more desperate in his pitch for investment assistance, Amanda sat on her deck watching waves roll toward shore. The encounter had been unpleasant, but ultimately strengthening, confirming that her decision to prioritize self-respect over toxic family dynamics was correct. That evening, Amanda made a significant decision that would define her philanthropic future. She contacted her attorney and established an anonymous scholarship fund at Columbus State Community College, the institution she had briefly attended before leaving to pursue entrepreneurship. The Amanda Wilson Entrepreneurship Scholarship would provide full tuition and mentorship to 5 students annually who demonstrated entrepreneurial potential but lacked traditional academic advantages. Make sure the selection criteria focus on demonstrated initiative and creative problem solving rather than grades or test scores, she instructed. And find mentors who have built actual businesses, not just taught business theory. The scholarship represented Amanda's way of supporting unconventional achievers without enabling the family dynamics that had caused her so much pain. These students would receive both financial assistance and something she had never had: adult mentorship from people who understood and respected entrepreneurial paths. As weeks passed, Amanda's house truly became a home. She planted a garden of native Florida species that attracted butterflies and hummingbirds to her morning coffee routine. She adopted Charlie, a mixed-breed rescue dog who accompanied her on beach walks and slept contentedly at the foot of her bed, his uncomplicated affection providing daily reminders of how relationships should feel. The healing wasn't complete. Trauma recovery is measured in years rather than months, but significant progress was undeniable. Amanda discovered aspects of herself that had been overshadowed by family stress for decades. She took a pottery class at a local studio, enjoying the meditative process despite producing consistently lopsided bowls. She tried paddleboard yoga, spending more time in the Gulf than on the board, but laughing through each attempt. 6 weeks turned into 3 months. The acute pain of family rejection transformed into something more manageable, not forgotten, but no longer dominating her emotional landscape. Amanda was building something new in Florida, not just a home, but an authentic life, aligned with her values rather than other people's expectations. The foundation had been laid for what would become a confrontation that brought her family story full circle in ways none of them could have anticipated. Part 7, The Reckoning Document. The phone call that would change everything came on a Tuesday morning in October, 6 months after Amanda had settled into her new life in Naples. She was sitting on her deck with Charlie curled at her feet, reviewing quarterly reports while watching pelicans dive for fish in the Gulf, when Eliza's excited voice shattered the peaceful routine. "Amanda, you need to see today's Naples Business Journal. Page 3. Trust me on this." The feature article that Eliza had discovered would set in motion a chain of events that brought Amanda's family story to its inevitable conclusion. Under the headline, E-commerce innovator brings multi-million-dollar business to Southwest Florida, the journalist had crafted a comprehensive profile of Amanda's journey from college dropout to successful entrepreneur. The reporter had done extensive research, interviewing Heartland-made employees, artisan partners, and industry analysts. The article detailed the company's growth from startup to $20 million valuation, its impact on American manufacturing, and Amanda's recent establishment of the Entrepreneurship Scholarship Fund. Most significantly, it painted a picture of success that was impossible to dismiss or minimize. "I didn't authorize this," Amanda told Eliza when her friend called to congratulate her on the positive coverage. "Public records," Eliza explained. "Property transfers, business registrations, scholarship foundations. Once they knew you were here, the rest was easy to research. Besides, it's a fantastic article that really captures what you've accomplished." Amanda studied the piece carefully, noting its professional tone and accurate details. The journalist had focused on business achievements and community impact rather than personal drama, exactly the kind of coverage that established credibility in ways that couldn't be questioned or dismissed. The article's impact extended far beyond Naples. Within days, it had been shared extensively through LinkedIn and Facebook networks, picked up by several business publications, and forwarded through email chains of entrepreneurs and small business advocates. Amanda's high school and college classmates suddenly rediscovered their friendship, sending congratulatory messages and requests to reconnect. Most surprising were messages from other small business owners in her hometown of Columbus, thanking her for representing what was possible without following traditional paths. "You inspired me to finally launch my catering business," wrote one former classmate. "If you could build something so substantial without a fancy degree, maybe my restaurant idea has merit too." The local newspaper in Columbus ran their own version of the story, adding a hometown angle. "Local entrepreneur makes national impact from Florida base." The irony wasn't lost on Amanda. The same community that had subtly reinforced her parents' disappointment now celebrated her as a success story worth claiming. Through this ripple effect of publicity, her family inevitably learned the full extent of her achievements. The first sign came as social media friend requests from cousins and extended family members who had previously shown minimal interest in her life. Then came the text from her mother, its casual tone belying the significance of what had changed. "Saw the article about your company. Very impressive, dear. Dad and I are both so proud of what you've accomplished." No mention of the birthday dinner disaster. No acknowledgement of the cruel words that had driven Amanda to Florida. Just a casual claim of pride that had been notably absent when Amanda sat at their dining room table trying to share these same achievements months earlier. Her father's voicemail arrived the next day, his tone artificially jovial in a way that made Amanda's skin crawl. "Amanda, saw the big news about your company in the papers. Always knew you had it in you, kiddo. Seems like there might have been some misunderstanding the last time we talked. Give your old dad a call when you get a chance." A misunderstanding. That was how William characterized calling his daughter uneducated trash and ordering her out of his house. The casual rewriting of history revealed everything about his character and nothing about genuine remorse for the harm he had caused. 3 days later, Her mother texted again. Dad and I are thinking of visiting Florida next month. Would love to see your new place and catch up properly. Let us know if that works with your schedule. The message landed in Amanda's stomach like a stone. 6 months of healing, of building authentic relationships, and discovering who she was outside her family's toxic dynamics. And now, they wanted to simply appear at her doorstep, as if nothing fundamental had changed. Amanda scheduled an emergency session with Dr. Richardson to process her conflicting emotions about her parents' sudden interest in reconciliation. You have several options, the therapist advised after listening to Amanda's concerns. You can decline the visit entirely, maintaining the boundaries you've established. You can agree to meet, but set strict parameters about what you will and will not discuss. Or you can view this as an opportunity for honest conversation that might lead to genuine healing, though that requires their willingness to acknowledge the harm they've done and commit to change. After careful consideration, Amanda chose the middle path. She texted her mother, "You and Dad are welcome to visit, but we need to have a serious conversation about what happened at his birthday dinner and how we move forward. I'm willing to talk, but only if you're both prepared for complete honesty about our family dynamics." Her mother's response came quickly. "Of course, sweetheart. We just want to put all this behind us and be a family again." The phrasing troubled Amanda. That desire to put this behind us, without addressing it directly, but she confirmed dates for their visit the following month. As the day approached, Amanda prepared both practically and emotionally. She arranged for her parents to stay at a nearby resort rather than in her home, preserving her personal sanctuary. She role-played difficult conversations with Dr. Richardson, practicing how to set boundaries without becoming defensive or accepting responsibility for their emotions. William and Patricia arrived on a sunny Tuesday afternoon in November, looking smaller and less intimidating than Amanda remembered. Her father's confident posture seemed diminished, his usual commanding presence reduced by the obvious wealth and success surrounding his daughter's new life. Her mother appeared nervous, fidgeting with her purse and looking around Amanda's waterfront neighborhood with obvious amazement. They met for lunch at a beachfront restaurant Amanda had chosen specifically for its public setting and relaxed atmosphere. Her parents were overdressed for the coastal environment. Her father in a pressed button-down shirt and dress pants. Her mother in a structured blazer more appropriate for church than beach dining. "This place is really something," William said, gesturing at the turquoise water visible through the restaurant's panoramic windows. "You've certainly done well for yourself, Amanda." The emphasis on "for yourself" didn't escape Amanda's notice. A subtle implication that her success existed in isolation from family values and support. "Thank you," she replied simply, not filling the awkward silence that followed, or taking responsibility for carrying the conversation. Patricia jumped in with nervous small talk about their flight, the weather, how different Florida was from Ohio. Amanda responded politely, but didn't help sustain topics that avoided the real reasons for their visit. Finally, after their food arrived and preliminary pleasantries were exhausted, William cleared his throat in the way Amanda remembered from childhood when he was preparing to address serious matters. "About what happened at my birthday dinner," he began, his tone suggesting he was doing her a favor by bringing up an unpleasant topic. "Things got a bit heated that night. I think we were all surprised by your news. You called me uneducated trash and a lowlife, Amanda stated calmly, maintaining eye contact. You told me to get out of your house and said my money didn't make me part of the family. Her father's face flushed, but he pressed forward with what was clearly a prepared response. I was caught off guard by the news about your business success. It felt like you were showing off, springing all that information on us without warning. I may have overreacted to what seemed like bragging. Not an apology, not an acknowledgement of cruelty, just an excuse that placed responsibility on Amanda for his abusive response to her achievements. I need to understand something, Amanda continued, her therapist's coaching evident in her calm, direct communication style. Was your reaction about me sharing my success or about learning that I had been helping the family financially for years? Both felt like you were trying to make us look small, Patricia interjected, her voice defensive. Like you were saying you were better than the rest of us, who worked regular jobs and built normal lives. I never said or implied that, Amanda replied. I spent years hiding my success specifically to avoid making anyone uncomfortable. I helped financially because I could, and because I wanted to support the family I love. None of that was about superiority. It was about generosity. Her father shifted uncomfortably in his chair. Well, the way you presented everything that night felt very calculated. And finding out you were behind those other financial situations, the medical bills, the house down payment, Jennifer's wedding, it felt deceptive, like charity we never asked for. The conversation continued in this vein throughout lunch, with Amanda's parents offering justifications and explanations rather than genuine apologies. They acknowledged that things were said that night, but consistently framed their cruelty as understandable reactions to Amanda's behavior, rather than taking responsibility for choosing to respond with deliberate hurtfulness. The subtext became increasingly clear. They were here because Amanda's public success made rejecting her socially awkward within their community, not because they had genuinely reconsidered their assessment of her worth or their role in damaging their relationship. I'd like to show you my home, Amanda said as lunch concluded. But first I need to be very clear about something. I won't pretend that dinner never happened, and I won't accept being dismissed, minimized, or insulted. If you want a relationship moving forward, it has to be based on mutual respect for who I actually am, not who you think I should have become. Her parents exchanged glances before William nodded stiffly. That seems reasonable. When they arrived at Amanda's beach house later that afternoon, their expressions as they absorbed the expansive ocean views and elegant design told Amanda everything she needed to know. This tangible evidence of her success was impossible to dismiss or attribute to luck. The $20 million valuation was no longer an abstract number, but manifested in prime real estate and tasteful luxury that spoke to both substantial wealth and sophisticated judgment. This is quite something, her father managed, his voice tight with emotions he couldn't articulate. As Amanda gave them a tour, pointing out handcrafted items from Heartland-made artisans that decorated each room, she realized something profound had shifted within her. Their approval, which she had sought desperately for so many years, no longer held the power it once had over her emotional well-being. She was proud of her home and her business, regardless of their reaction. because she finally understood her worth independently of their acknowledgement. The conversation that followed, conducted on Amanda's deck as sunset painted the Gulf in shades of orange and pink, was difficult but necessary. Her parents offered qualified apologies that focused more on their experience of surprise than the harm their words had caused. They claimed they had always been proud of her, just worried about her future security. "The business world can be unpredictable," William explained, as if Amanda hadn't successfully navigated those uncertainties for 7 years. "Companies rise and fall quickly. We just wanted traditional stability for you." "I understand that concern comes from love," Amanda acknowledged, "but there's no guaranteed security in any path. Plenty of people with degrees struggle financially, while others without formal education thrive. What matters is recognizing that there are multiple valid paths to success and respecting the choices your children make, even when they're different from what you would have chosen." No dramatic reconciliation occurred that evening. No tearful group embrace that magically healed decades of misunderstanding and conditional love. Instead, they reached a fragile understanding, a starting point rather than a resolution. "Moving forward," Amanda explained as stars appeared over the Gulf, "I'm open to rebuilding our relationship, but with clear boundaries. I won't accept being demeaned for my educational choices or having my success minimized as luck rather than skill and hard work." Her parents agreed, though Amanda sensed her father's reluctance in his responses and her mother's genuine surprise at recognizing her own role in the family dysfunction. After they returned to Ohio, Amanda reflected on the visit and its outcomes. The healing process was far from complete, but important ground had been covered. She maintained limited contact with her parents in the months that followed. Brief weekly phone calls that gradually became less strained and more authentic. Her relationships with her siblings evolved differently. Jennifer eventually offered a sincere apology for her role in the family dynamics, acknowledging how she had minimized Amanda's achievements and accepted benefits from her generosity without gratitude. They slowly rebuilt their connection based on adult friendship rather than childhood competition. Thomas remained distant, occasionally sending holiday cards, but making no real effort to understand the harm he had contributed to or to acknowledge Amanda's success on its own terms. Some relationships, Amanda learned, couldn't be repaired because one party wasn't willing to do the necessary work. The broader lesson from Amanda's journey extended beyond family dynamics to fundamental questions about success, worth, and belonging. She had learned that approval couldn't be purchased at any price, that family relationships built on conditional acceptance would always be fragile, and that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is establish boundaries that protect everyone involved from toxic patterns. 1 year after her move to Florida, Amanda hosted a dinner party for her chosen family of friends. Eliza, Maria from the coffee shop, her pottery class instructor, and several other women who had welcomed her into their community based on who she was, rather than her credentials or background. As they gathered around her table overlooking the Gulf, sharing food and laughter and genuine appreciation for each other's company, Amanda felt a completeness that had eluded her throughout her biological family relationships. "To chosen family," Eliza toasted, raising her glass as dolphins played in the sunset waves beyond Amanda's deck. "And to having the courage to prioritize respect over obligation." The sentiment captured exactly what Amanda had learned through her difficult journey. Family connections could be valuable and healing, but not at the cost of dignity and self-worth. True success couldn't be measured solely by traditional metrics, but by the positive impact you create and the authentic relationships you build along the way. Most importantly, Amanda discovered that forgiveness didn't require forgetting or continuing to accept harmful treatment. Real forgiveness was an internal process of releasing anger and resentment while maintaining boundaries that protected your well-being and honored your worth. Her story continued to unfold, as all stories do. The relationships with her parents slowly improved, though they never achieved the closeness Amanda had once hoped for. Some growth occurred, some understanding developed, but within limits imposed by their inability to fully acknowledge their role in nearly destroying their daughter's self-worth. That was acceptable now because Amanda had found her worth elsewhere, in the business she had built, the lives she had positively impacted, the community she had joined, and ultimately in her own recognition of her value that couldn't be diminished by others' inability to see it clearly. If her journey offers wisdom worth sharing, it's this: your value isn't determined by others' perceptions, especially those clouded by fear, tradition, or threatened authority. Success comes in countless forms, often unexpected ones, and sometimes the most painful rejections lead to the most authentic and fulfilling paths forward. The family we create through choice and mutual respect can be more meaningful than the one we inherit through accident of birth. Have you ever faced the choice between family expectations and your own authentic path? Have you discovered that success sometimes requires leaving behind relationships that can't celebrate your growth? Share your experience, because these stories matter. They remind us that we're not alone in choosing courage over comfort, respect over approval, and authentic success over conventional safety.